In a world where the paranormal meets the preposterous, where ghostly whispers echo through the abandoned arcades, and every creaky floorboard might just be a clue, two bravish souls dare to investigate the mysteries no one else will touch.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.
Hey there, mystery lovers and mischief makers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Dan, together with the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, your guides through the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully unexplained.
Each week, we dive headfirst into bizarre tales, haunted happenings, and conspiracy theories so strange they'll make your nan's ghost stories sound like bedtime lullabies.
We're talking cursed vacuum cleaners, psychic pigeons, haunted theme parks, and maybe, just maybe, a few real clues along the way.
So grab your flashlights, your EMF detectors, and maybe a snack, because things are about to get weird.
This is the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, where the only thing scarier than the truth is how much fun we're having finding it. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I will ever be.
Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
Or rather, considering the story we're doing today, if you're listening in the morning, Boridar. If you're listening in the afternoon, Prinhaldar.
My God, man. You're just surprise me every day. There's a new surprise from you.
Yes, well, that's because we're going to Wales. There's a bit of Welsh for you.
I thought it was Chinese, sorry.
No,
I'm so uneducated.
Yeah, Boridar is good morning and Prinhaldar is good afternoon in Welsh.
It sounds very Welsh. It actually is convincingly Welsh. So anybody, please, any corrections? I don't think there will be, because I'm absolutely convinced you know what you're talking about, and it does sound really good. What else do you know in Welsh?
Well, my favourite Welsh word is purely down to the spelling, and that's taxi, because in Welsh it's TACSI. So the Welsh for taxi is taxi, but it's spelt with the CS instead of an X. What else do I know? Tar, which I believe is or T, which is house. Somebody will correct us out there. Trying to think what other Welsh words I know.
Well, the main thing is you know enough to get past a normal day in Wales.
Yes.
And you learned all this when you were visiting the Doctor exhibition, I imagine. Back in the day.
No, actually, I with my day job, I was speaking to some people at the Senedd, which is the Welsh Government building, and they taught me a little bit of Welsh.
I'm blown away. Yeah, very good. You really are the brains of this operation.
Well, I know enough to make me sound brainy and intelligent.
I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
So what are we doing in Wales today?
Well, we're talking about the fairy cattle, and yeah, we're talking about animals today, but mainly cattle. So we're talking about some oxen a bit later.
Fairy cattle. No, I'm imagining little cows with wings.
Yeah,
just flitting around.
I would love that to be the case, but actually no, they're more like magical cattle.
As in, they can make things disappear, like grass and crops.
And I believe they some people call them aurochs, which were great wild cattle that roamed Britain in prehistoric times.
Ooh.
And may have links to the fairy cattle that are all over Wales, apparently.
I've just done a search for fairy cattle. They look like big yaks. I don't know if that's yaks. I like that word. They got good fringes on them. They're so cute. They're so cute. If they're all that cute, I wouldn't eat them so often.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we can get into the story here. So the fairy cattle were known to be very generous beasts that gave an unending supply of milk to mankind until they were upset by a greedy human and they would then disappear forever. Now, there are several stories, such as a cow that lived in Aberdafi. And I will say to any Welsh people listening, I apologise for any mispronunciations of Welsh words. Feel free to correct us on social media.
And I got to say, this is why I'm not going to attempt to say any Welsh words here, because I can barely speak in the English word in the right way, as I've just proved I couldn't perform a sentence there, let alone a Welsh word. So I'm going to keep very quiet this episode. This is all down to you, Dan.
Well, there was a cow that lived in Aberdyfi who supplied the whole district with an unending supply of milk until one day a butcher went to slaughter her to obviously eat. But before he could get there to slaughter the cow, his arm became paralyzed and the cow was able to escape. And apparently, a green lady led it into the waters of Clynbarfog, and the cow was never seen again.
So it escaped being butchered to just drown.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's another story of the miraculous cow, the Efoixfrec, or the freckled cow, lived on Hythrog Mountain near Cerrig in Clwyd. Now, hopefully, that's not. I'm doing my best here. It sounds very good.
It does.
Whether I'm saying it correctly or not is another matter. And apparently, the freckled cow for years supplied the neighbourhood with milk and would always fill any receptacle that was brought to her. Until one day, a witch began to milk her and was milking her into a sieve and continued to milk the cow into a sieve until the cow went insane and drowned itself in the Clydal Ichen. So the freckled cow would happily fill up any receptacle.
Yeah.
Until a witch decided, let's do it into a sieve because it's never going to be filled. And the cow then went insane and drowned itself.
Do you know, that witch sounds far worse than a butcher. I would rather be butchered than have somebody do that to me. That sounds horrible. That's torture. Why would it do that? Why would this witch abuse this poor, generous cow? I mean, to milk it into a sieve is just like, yeah, I'm
And the bit I like is the fact that the cow went insane and decided, let's go and jump in the river.
Do you know what I say? I say burn the witch.
Yes.
Burn them. Not all of them. Not all. Some of them are very nice. Just the ones that just milk cows into sieves until they go mad and drown themselves, because we can't have that. That's just cruel to animals. But burn the witch if they do that.
But also, these cows, they're just chilling and they're like, yeah, humans want milk to make cheese and butter and milkshakes and all sorts of things. And then, we've now got a butcher trying to slaughter one. But then I like the fact that the butcher's arm was paralyzed. So the butcher
had a stroke.
They went up to the cow and then just suddenly, oh no, I can't move my arms.
And this is, pronounce the cow's name again for me. What's it called again? It's called a Yetchin Banog.
No, that's the oxen.
Okay, so which one we're talking about?
These are the fairy cattle, the aurochs. Okay. And then you've got the freckled cow, which was the freckled cow was the Efuchfreg, who was the one with the witch. But the cows in general, I believe, aurochs, if I've read it correctly, or the fairy cattle. And I understand that the fairy cattle also have links to Scotland and Ireland, so very Celtic.
I mean, back then, of course, if you had a cow, cattle must be just. You wouldn't want, to actually want to slaughter a cow back then. Must have been real. that cow producing the milk is like everything. It's giving life to everybody around. It's helping everybody live and survive. So you wouldn't want somebody going off to slaughter it unless, of course, it's become barren, I guess, and become useless. But so definitely the villain of the story there is the butcher.
Yeah.
You've got to prize your cows, and they obviously were to have these sort of legends of how special their cows are. They were special. They were
Yeah.
special.
And another name for them are the Gwartheg Elin, or the lake cattle, and the other stories are so they're apparently given to humans by lake fairies. The Gwynraged An, or the Tilith Teg to humans. And so this story here of this butcher is very similar to another story, which could be the same story, and one of them says butcher, one of them says farmer. That a farmer captured one of these mystical white cows, and the cow fell in love with the rest of his herd. The cow produced milk, butter, and cheese of unparalleled quality and quantity, making the farmer very wealthy. The farmer then decided to fatten the cow for slaughter, which was then disrespectful to the Fae, so the fairies that had gifted it. And apparently, when the butcher attempted to strike the cow, the weapon passed through the head, and a green lady called the cow and its offspring away. And then it links into the origin stories of the Welsh black cattle, because apparently all but one fairy cow returned to the lake, with one cow remaining, which turned into a jet black calf, which began the line of Welsh black cattle.
I That's an origin story if I've ever heard one. I mean, complex. So many things. Green Lady again. I like the Green Lady thing that keeps coming back. Obviously, that must be a Celtic thing. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think Green Lady is a Celtic legend, isn't it?
I'm not sure if that's if it's the same story and it's just one story it's a butcher, one story it's a farmer, or whether they're two separate stories. But
Yeah.
But you were saying about the Iken Banog, which the Iken Banog were oxen, so they had big horns and everything.
The size
And
of a church, apparently. These things were big. These were the size of a church.
yeah, 40
Cool.
feet tall, with a
Long
bellow
oxen.
that can be heard up to 10 miles away, which were a pair of oxen, and they were the strongest oxen in the world. They were often used to haul monsters out from their lairs.
Crows would dance around them, apparently.
And then a story of the dreaded Afanc, which was a water monster that lived in the River Conway near Betsy Coed. And the creature was enticed from its cave by a young girl it had fallen in love with. But though the townspeople managed to put chains around it, it clawed off one of the girl's breasts and escaped.
Trigger warning.
Finally, it was left to the Iken Banog to haul the Afanc from its hiding place. They did so, but such was the struggle that the eye of one of the oxen fell to the ground. This was so large that it formed a pool, which is still known as the Pilclanig Ik, or the Pool of the Ox's Eye. The oxen were then taken to Llandiwrth in Dafydd. Now, again, the Welsh people listening to this are going to want to come after me with some of these pronunciations, but I'm trying my best.
I think you're doing amazingly, and I really hope that they appreciate the effort you put into it, because I wouldn't even attempt any of this.
But the Iken Banog were then employed to haul an enormous boulder in order to build a church. The work proved too much for them, and inseparable. And although they were inseparable, they then died from exhaustion. So Iken Banog, after getting rid of a monster that had tried to hurt a girl, lost an eye in the battle, creating a lake that's still there to this day, and then had to move a boulder to build a church, and they died from exhaustion.
God, they've got it rough. They've got it rough. I mean, this. I mean, I'm kind of yeah. Apparently, uh, uh, yeah. Okay, right. So apparently, these are, I guess, the monster part as well, part of a Arthurian legend. So it's gone as far as they're actually in poetry about King Arthur. These oxen are in it.
Well, it would make
Um,
sense because if we're talking about lakes and a green lady that takes them to the lakes and fairies in a lake, that would link in
to
nicely
the
with
Green
the
Lady,
Lady of the
yeah,
Lake.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But of course, I'm finding it very hard to talk about this one because I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce any of the words. Um,
but it's fine. The Welsh people are probably already after me after my mispronunciation, so it'd be nice to distract them with you.
I do respect the Welsh too much to attempt any Welsh word.
But
So
if
they
you're
could.
Welsh and you're listening and you wish to be a guest and just say some of these words for us, then feel free to get in touch.
So apparently these oxen could actually plough any field, no matter how tough. They part of a. I don't see. I don't know how much this information I'm actually pulling up here is part of the actual original legend or part of Dungeons and Dragons.
What
Because
for
I'm
the
sure,
Ikem Banog?
yeah, because it's all very. It gives me hit points for them, so I can't imagine they're real.
Yes.
Um, it's yeah. At least with other legends and ghost stories, sometimes you can find more evidence of them, which is outside of the realms of Dungeons and Dragons. But but again, I mean, there is a connection between Arthurian legend, which is quite good. Um, but it says here they're just oxen are part of the extended magical network of allies and creatures that populate Arthur's world. But I can't find much more apart from their big cows. And I could see why somebody would want to I mean, you really could feed the entire village for a year if you're talking they're that size, and then make some really good steak. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but again, cows are really special. They are really special, especially back before there was mass breeding and mass, and healthcare and vets and all that stuff. If you had a cow that was actually producing milk regularly and was fit and healthy, it must be like the center of a village. It must be the most important thing.
Well, and this story. So we've started off talking about these magical cows and oxen. Now, I did say about these cows who, the fairies were said to supply the cows, and the fairies were called the Gwir Gwyrged Anwyn. Gwyrged Anwyn. That sounds right. That sounds quite Welsh. Maybe
Yep.
I've got that one correct. Or Greg Anwyn. So maybe I've got that correct. Apparently, these fairies were created by Saint Patrick. So apparently the story behind these fairies that gave people these fairy cows is that St. Patrick journeyed from Ireland to Wales to meet with St. David. A crowd of Welsh folk spotted the two meeting and began to verbally abuse St. Patrick, who were angry at him for leaving Cambria. St. Patrick, who spoke Welsh, could understand what their insults were, so punished the offending Welsh folk by transforming them into fish. However, the people there that were women were transformed into lake fairies. So
Okay.
these fairies that gave people these cows that could produce a ridiculous amount of milk were apparently created by St. Patrick out of angry Welsh people. And then these fairies then went on to give people cows.
It doesn't sound very Christian, does it?
No.
Because then you become a saint. It doesn't sound or very yeah. It's it's kind of definitely mixing different types of folklore and legend there. And St. Patrick seems to be pretty much, the alpha, isn't he? I mean, he can do anything. That's just if he convert. Dan, I'm lost. There's so much happening here. Yeah, I mean, a few times in these stories I felt kind of lost, but this one here, it's just gone. My brain has just gone. Honestly.
So apparently the the Gwynad Anwyn, again, I apologize for the pronunciation, do have similar characteristics to other, like the Irish mermaids and the Scottish sea maidens. However, the thing that makes these unique to Wales is they are only found near lakes and rivers, never in an ocean, and they are always dressed in green, and they're the only type of fairy capable of crossing from the lower world, led by the fairy king Gwynap Nud into the upper world, where regular human beings dwell. They are most likely to be found near lakes in isolated or mountainous areas. And a bit more information go back to the cows. In some variations of the stories, the milk could heal injuries, make people more intelligent, and put people in a cheerful mood.
Yeah, I've seen it can make wicked people happy. I like that. Yeah, make what they say. They say, make fools wise. I like that. But apparently, this the milk cow, the white milk cow. What's it called again? It was Lynn Barfog. Is that the one?
Yes. No.
Yeah,
No, that was the oxen.
the oxen. Okay.
Um,
I've lost track. The one that could be milked anyway. The one that was being milked. I'd like to
yes.
be milked. So,
The Gwythagan Eel Clun, the lake
thank you.
cattle. The lake
Awesome.
cattle or fairy cattle.
Okay, so it says here that the milk white cow could give milk to everyone who deserved it, however frequently milked or whatever number of persons. She was never found to be deficient. All persons who drank her milk were healed of every illness. From fools became wise, from wicked became happy. The cows went around the world apparently, and wherever the cow, it's only one cow. The cow went around the world wherever, and wherever she appeared, she filled all with milk, and all the vessels that could be found. She left calves behind her, all the wise and happy, for all the wise and happy. Sorry, so I'm trying to translate here from Welsh. Um, it was from her that all the milk cows in the world were obtained. After traversing through the Isles of Britain for the benefits and blessings of country and kindred, she reached the valley of Towie, where, tempted by her fine appearance and superior condition, the natives sought to kill and eat her. Just as they were proceeding to effect their purpose, she vanished from between their hands and was never seen again. A house still remains in the locality called the Milk Cow House, I guess. So there's actually a building there that's supposed to be what's left of where that cow disappeared. But so all the milk cows from the world, every milk cow on the planet came from this one cow who travelled the world before they tried to kill her and obviously dragged off to the lake by the Green Lady.
And according to another legend of this that I've just seen, you know the big oxen that we were talking about?
Yeah.
Apparently, they are the children of the freckled cow. So the freckled cow that the witch was milking had two young oxen, and after the cow ran away from the witch and it went mad and threw itself in a lake near Cerrig it led its two children to that lake, but obviously the cow jumped itself in the lake and drowned itself. But the two horned oxen, but which were her children, went on to become the two large oxen.
Hmm. Which were called
Echen Banog.
What were the oxen's names? I have got their names here, but I'm not even going to pronounce them. Is it Dino?
I don't know.
Right, Dynnio is one of them. So Dynnio and The other one's spelled Pebiaw. This is the worst podcast. Sorry, everybody. I'm just spelling out random words.
So Dinio and
Pebio.
Pebio.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the name of the. Yeah.
As I said, we apologise to any Welsh speakers who are offended by our mispronunciation.
I'm going to make that. I apologise to everyone who's listening to this podcast today. Let's just start that. It's only going to be 5 minutes long when we cut out all the pauses and me just raising my eyebrows and shaking my head.
To be fair, credit to us. We're, Englishmen, and we're doing our best at trying to pronunciate Welsh words. After a great start with me saying good morning or good afternoon in almost perfect Welsh, we're doing our best. We're doing our best, and hopefully the Welsh, are grateful of that.
I'm pretty sure nobody else will be, so I hope the Welsh are.
Yeah.
Everyone's just going to be staring at their car radio thinking, or the headsets thinking, I'm not listening to this again.
Well, considering the history of the Welsh language, of when the English took over Wales, the English pretty much killed off or imprisoned anyone for speaking Welsh, and it was banned that's why you can get free Welsh lessons now that the government pay for, so the language can now grow again. Which interesting fact about the Welsh language, did you know it's the only official language in the United Kingdom?
Did you know the HM Land Registry only provide their information in 2 languages? One's English and one's Welsh.
Oh.
How about that for a fact?
Another interesting fact. But yeah, I like the fact that Welsh is the only official language of the UK, which means that English is not an official language of the UK. Gaelic Scots is not an official language of the UK.
Just Welsh.
Just Welsh. Welsh is the only official language within the UK.
Well, good for them. I think it's a lovely language, and it's definitely unique and impossible for an Englishman to speak, apart from Dan, because he's done a fine, sterling job today, Dan.
I'm doing my best.
You're doing a sterling effort. Now tell us about elf balls, then.
Balls?
Do you know anything about elf balls?
No, I don't.
Now, what do you first picture when you hear the word elf balls, apart from the adult version of a Will Ferrell film for Christmas?
Well, that's exactly what I'm picturing. However, I'm guessing it has some sort of link to the fairy cattle somehow.
It is, yes, it's a Victorian fairy cattle expert legend kind of thing. But I still prefer Will Ferrell at Christmas. See, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting one, because apparently it even goes as far to say that the freckled cow has links with similar cows in Shropshire, where in Shropshire the freckled cow is known as the white cow of Mitchell's Fold.
Oh, Mitchell's Fold. That's very unfortunate.
So not only are these cows a Welsh thing, but they're also an English thing in Shropshire.
My brain is just completely wrong, because as soon as you said Mitchell's Fold, all I could think is after the weight I lost recently, which is quite a lot of them, I had quite a few folds. So thinking about what, I mean, know the cow legend of Steve's Folds. That's quite unpleasant. I may have to cut that one out because I'm visualizing it now and it's just not good. But I'm sure Mitchell was lovely. We're both sitting there we're still both sitting here with our heads in our hands.
Yes. I was going to say, I just looked up at the camera and realised that, and for those that are listening to the podcast, both of us are sitting there, and I believe it's the exact same hand, and we're just holding our head.
Both looking red and flustered, that's it.
Trying to get our head around this whole fairy cattle story that has links to St. Patrick, St. David, has oxen and butchers that have paralyzed arms after trying to kill them, and farmers trying to fatten them up, and links to fairies and lakes. And this story is a story that just
Yeah.
When I looked at this story to start with, I thought, right, we haven't done anything really about supernatural animals to the point of recording this. Let's just look at some cows that give loads of milk to people. And it just got madder and madder and madder.
Well, should I tell you a little bit about the elf balls?
Yes,
And I'm
let's
not
talk
talking
about
real
the
fairies
elf
again.
balls.
Okay. So apparently, an elf ball would be seen fighting with the strongest bulls in any herd, and they were smaller than the normal bulls. So they were smaller than them. They said they had upright ears, short horns, short legs, hair that was smooth and glossy like an otter's pelt. But they were very small, but they were supernaturally strong, and they would beat and kill the bull, the bull, the bull of the
Wow.
herd, and then they would mate with all of the cows. They also reckoned that what was so important about those bulls is that they had second sight and they could actually see the fairies. The fairies. I'm doing it again. I told you I can't say fairy because it sounds like ferry across the Mersey. So
Fairy cross the
fairies.
Mersey.
Yeah. Oh god, I hate not being able to speak properly. Um, yeah, so they would basically beat off the other bull and then mate with all the cows. Uh, that again sounds absolutely wrong. It's like that interview. I heard you had to beat off all those American men for the part.
So if we right, let's try and establish a timeline to these fairy cattle. So St. Patrick and St. David meet in Wales. People heckle St. Patrick. St. Patrick turns the men into fish and the ladies into fairies. The fairies then create fairy cattle, possibly just the freckled cattle. That then produces an unlimited supply of milk to whoever it comes across. Then a butcher or a farmer tries to eat the cattle and it escapes with a green lady, which was a fairy. And then eventually a witch comes along, milks the cattle dry. The cattle drives itself insane and throws itself in a lake, but it's had two young oxen who then grow up to be the Eken Banog, who are then these huge oxen that then have links to a monster called, was it Afanok? I believe it was pronunciated or something similar like that, which was a monster that lived in a lake that followed a girl, tried to attack the girl. The Ikenbanog, one of them lost an eye, which then created a new lake, and then they died of exhaustion building a church.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. You mentioned that they were gifts from the fairies for being a good neighbour. That's how
Yes.
they were gifted originally. And did you know that the fairies not just had cattle, but they also had horses and deer and dogs and what else? Cats and other livestock. So they would actually be able to, in Wales, they'd be able to present to their good neighbours all these different types of animals, and they were all supernatural. So the cattle is just one part of this whole thing. They were very generous. Why would anybody really want to upset these things? Because they've done nothing but give everything. And they were all supernatural. But at some point in all the history, man's greed means that they were taken away. You know, the fact that somebody wanted to kill them. The cow that would go off every once a year off to swim across an island and then give birth to one of the elf balls. And every year it would give you all the milk it wanted, and it would give, every year there'd be a new calf born on this island, and it would swim back and it would give the farmer it. Then after many years, the farmer decided to it was about time we culled the cow because she was old and wasn't bearing the milk anymore like she used to. She got slightly annoyed, ran off and took all the calves with her. All the
Yeah.
evidence cleared off with her. So just because they decided to cook and eat her, everybody cleared off. Get no evidence. This seems to be the thing. As soon as man decides they want to eat it or kill it, they just clear off and take all the evidence with them. That's it. They're gone.
Do you know what? This story is making me really fancy a steak right now.
Oh God, yeah, me too. There's a steak challenge in down in Paynton, which is just about an hour and a half away, I guess, maybe an hour, and they do a 65-ounce steak. You really want to give that a try after this, and in honor to these wonderful creatures that provide us with such wonderful food and drink.
I will say that's
Eat
all
a steak.
vegans and vegetarians have now
Who's just switched off?
and,
Yeah, trigger warning.
yeah.
No, one of my best friends who is no longer with us was a Hindu. Never obviously ate cows or any meat at all. Was a complete vegetarian, but that's just he never tried to stop us eating. We would always go out for a meal. Okay, if he ever took us out, it would be to a vegetarian Indian restaurant. So that was sort of, but he never objected to it. And that's again, that's the thing: live and let live. Unless you're a cow, then it's live and let give as much milk and steak as you can. That's all you're there for, really.
And then if somebody gets greedy, chuck yourself in a lake.
Take your offspring with you. Yeah, But very tasty, a very tasty episode. And that's the worst thing about it. I'm confused. I honestly don't know where I am now, but all I know is that I shouldn't be eating steak.
No, because if you do, you won't get any more milk.
Yeah, I don't drink milk anyway, to be honest. I don't know why. Yeah.
Maybe because you're a descendant of the greedy farmer.
Maybe it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. But I wouldn't have said the farmer was greedy. I mean, the fact is, this cow, she'd done her duty. She'd lived a long and happy free range life. And all they were just going to do is just make use of her, so she didn't rot in a ditch somewhere. Because everything has to die. Everybody. Better off on a plate than in a ditch. That's what I say. God, you need to cancel. You need to cut all this out because we're going to lose at least 6 vegetarian, vegan listeners.
This story is just. I thought we were just going to go into this and be like, here's some magical cattle, and then it just grows into the point where my head is now fit to burst with trying to wrap my head around this whole story and legend.
It's a load of ball, if you ask me.
And that's probably a good point to wrap this episode up, I suppose.
I would say, apart from your Welsh, which has been very, very good, I've been very impressed. It's probably not our finest hour. No, especially after all these stories, then saying we just want to eat meat. That's all we got from it, really.
Yep.
But I love the legends. I love the legends, love the stories. It's amazing that such a huge backstory of all these creatures is there, even though there's just, where did they start? How did somebody pass on these stories? It could well have been that there was a very fertile, very productive cow one day, which then stopped producing, or somebody stole it, or made up a story and that it ran away when it rustled a cow because it was a really good one. And then everyone's saying, where's the cow gone? It's like, cleared off. I was going to eat it and it cleared off. It just disappeared. But really, it's in his barn.
Yeah.
Dan, seriously.
Well, if you are Welsh and we've mispronunciated anything at all, then do let us know. We are trying our best here, but yes, do get in touch. Let us know. And if you know any other Welsh stories that we can absolutely destroy and butcher the names of, let us know those as well. Yeah, preferably with the pronunciations.
I would can I just suggest, if we do have any more Welsh stories or anything else which involves language which may be a little bit trickier, that we maybe get a guest in with us who can actually speak that language and help us out and actually be part of the legend. Because again, you probably heard. All you've heard on this podcast is me breathing deeply, sighing, and holding my head, not knowing what to say. It'd be awesome to have somebody here who can actually say, "Yes, well, I know this legend well, and it's pronounced this way." Fly, Jackie Chan. What do you reckon? Should we try to get some guests in next time for the Welsh stories? Do you know? I know some Welsh people. You work with Welsh people.
It would be very good to get some Welsh people in, wouldn't it?
Do you know, it's really funny. Okay, this is where it's going to upset everybody, so trigger warning. When you ask most white English people to make a Welsh accent, they sound like an Indian. They do a stereotypical 1970s Indian impression. I don't know what it is. There's so little difference between the average Englishman doing a Welsh accent to doing an Indian accent, and it's just cracks me up. Cracks me up.
And on that note, let's wrap the podcast up. So we have been the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I've been Dan,
and I'm the older generation, and I'm Steve.
And again, apologies to any Welsh people that have, don't like our mispronunciations,
or Indian people who have been accused of, or anybody who likes to do a Welsh Indian accent. Sorry, all vegetarians or vegans. Who else? We must have to apologise to a few more people.
Send any complaints to 10 Downing Street.
I'm sure burn them with the rest of them.
Yeah. But if you're if you don't already follow us across socials, do search for the Boo-Foons, give us a follow. If you're feeling particularly generous, maybe help fund some Welsh lessons for our pronunciations, do have a look at the Patreon page. And
I was going to say, if you are already a Patreon member and you've been offended by anything, please don't unsubscribe.
Yes, please don't.
We'll do better, I promise.
Yeah, we'll try our best. We're trying our best. But yes, we will be back next week with another mystery and story to share with you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators.